A mother collapses during childbirth with her baby still inside, but her husband's unexpected actions change everything. The newborn, Gabriella, was nothing short of a miracle. Her mother, Melanie, suffered a heart attack during labor and was declared clinically dead. With little hope for both mother and child, her husband took a surprising step. What happened next was truly remarkable. Let's dive into this extraordinary story and find out how it all unfolded. Melanie was pregnant with her second daughter and couldn't wait any longer to meet her. She and her husband were overjoyed to welcome a new family member, a baby sister for their son, Brady. The pregnancy had gone well, and it wasn't until week 39 that signs of labor began to appear. When she was pregnant with Brady, Melanie made sure to find a gynecologist and hospital that shared her pro-life beliefs. In critical medical situations, decisions must sometimes be made in a split second, and Melanie wanted to ensure that her unborn child's life was valued equally, or even more, than her own. She was so committed to this idea that she traveled 25 minutes out of her way to see a trusted gynecologist. Fortunately, she found one she trusted, and she felt secure in the care she received during her second pregnancy. All signs pointed to a smooth delivery, and nothing seemed unusual until disaster struck. As Melanie lay in the hospital bed, ready to give birth, her water broke. Soon after, she began to feel ill. She told her nurse that she felt dizzy and nauseous, as if she were about to pass out, but there were no obvious signs of a serious problem. Suddenly, Melanie closed her eyes and collapsed right in front of the doctors and her husband. She appeared to be having seizures, and her vital signs indicated something was seriously wrong. Her heart rate plummeted, and her blood pressure dropped to near zero. Melanie's skin started turning blue, and she stopped breathing, all while her baby girl was still inside her. Gabriella's vital signs began to drop rapidly as well. What was happening to Melanie, and how could the doctors save both her and the baby? A code blue was called, and a full medical team rushed into the room. They quickly unplugged Melanie's bed and transported her to the operating room. The diagnosis was grim. Melanie was suffering from amniotic fluid embolism, a rare but serious condition where amniotic fluid enters the mother's bloodstream with potentially fatal effects. At that moment, Melanie was declared clinically dead, and the medical team shifted focus to saving the baby, performing an emergency C-section. Melanie's husband, Doe, was devastated. He had seen his wife taken away and was told it might be the last time he would see her alive. Her condition was so critical that survival seemed unlikely, and even if she did live, she might never be the same. It was heartbreaking news for Doe, who adored his wife and had never anticipated something like this. He felt completely powerless and terrified, unsure how to cope, so he said his goodbye and started praying. In his mind, he repeated, "God, I know this is more than I can handle, which means you have a plan and a purpose in this. I trust you, but please, if it's your will, let me hold my wife again." As word of Melanie's condition spread among family and friends, they all began to pray as well. In the hospital waiting room, they held hands and begged God to bring her back. They also shared their prayers on social media, and soon the message went viral. Within hours, Melanie became one of the top 100 most searched people on Twitter and the most searched person in Phoenix on Google. Thousands of people from around the world joined in prayer for her. Meanwhile, Doe was allowed to visit her. Melanie remained in the operating room, where doctors were doing everything they could to save her. However, there was still little hope. When a nurse asked Doe what they would name their daughter, he replied, "Gabriella." It was a deeply bittersweet moment for him. He was relieved that his daughter was alive but terrified for his wife. He feared he would have to raise his little girl alone and felt overwhelming sadness that Melanie might not be there to share the moment with him. The doctors had managed to revive Melanie and restore a weak pulse, but she remained in critical condition. After 48 long and terrifying hours, they were able to transfer her to the ICU, where they worked tirelessly to keep her alive. Melanie's brother, a cardiothoracic surgeon, had just arrived at the hospital and asked to review her medical files. He saw that things were not looking good for his sister, who was in a state of cardiovascular collapse, and her condition was rapidly worsening. The entire family was asked to say their goodbyes because no one believed she would survive. Doe's heart was shattered, but he turned to Melanie to say his final words. He said, "I love you. I will always love you. Brady and Gabriella are beautiful and they love you. If you have any fight left in you, keep fighting." Other family members also expressed their love, and meanwhile, everyone continued praying. They prayed that Melanie would come back from the abyss and that Gabriella and Brady would not have to grow up without their mother. With almost all hope lost, prayers were all they had left. But Melanie's condition only worsened. She had already received 2 blood transfusions, but her blood was still dangerously clotting. To make matters worse, the doctors realized that they had accidentally damaged one of her arteries during the C-section. She was bleeding internally and required another surgery to stop it. All the blood had pooled in her abdomen, and they had to pack her stomach to absorb it. It seemed her entire body was shutting down. Her heart was barely pumping, and her lungs had failed, leaving her dependent on a respirator. The medical staff waited for the moment her body would give up, as they believed there was nothing more they could do for her. But deep inside, Melanie was not ready to give up. She desperately wanted to see her family again and had immense faith that she would survive this ordeal. It was decided to transfer Melanie to another hospital, where they had better technology to treat her. There, she was connected to a machine called ECMO to help her heart and lungs recover. To check her neurological functions, they lowered her sedation levels until she briefly woke up. Just as she regained consciousness, Doe walked into the room. He looked at her and simply said, "Hello, dear." Tears welled up in Melanie's eyes, a clear sign to Doe that she was not brain dead. Suddenly, hope appeared on the horizon once again, but one more surgery was needed to remove the packing from her stomach. Everything was on the line once more. Before Melanie underwent anesthesia, Doe showed her a photo of Gabriella. In her own words, this must have awakened a kind of mother bear instinct in her, and she almost tried to get out of bed to go see her little girl. But before she could, she was put under anesthesia, and the doctors prepared for a few scary hours to see if she would survive the operation. And she did. It was almost a miracle, something none of her doctors had expected. Melanie had been strong enough, perhaps even stubborn enough, to pull through. Within 24 hours, they were able to remove her respirator and all medications except for pain relievers. It was clear that she was going to survive. Melanie and her husband were overwhelmed with happiness and gratitude. Their reunion was nothing short of incredible. Although Melanie was unconscious through most of the ordeal and remembers little, she was astonished when she learned the full story. She had essentially died and come back to embrace her family once more. Hearing about the prayers and support from so many people filled her with deep humility and relief. She felt her soul glowing, and to this day, she thanks God for sparing both her and her daughter, allowing them to emerge with their health intact. What a miraculous story! What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you liked this story. Please give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.